Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sarah Martin with The Contoured Chemist. All right, today is an intro day. I am gonna go over all the basics of Seint makeup. So both 3D foundation and even Demi Colour, but in regards to mature skin. So if you heard of this makeup line and just don't know if it's for you, I'm gonna kind of go over the basics of what you need to know to get started with Seint. More specifically, things I've learned about mature skin that make it a little bit different, but also why it is the best makeup ever for mature skin. It's amazing. If you want to check it out, please keep watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and thanks for being here. Okay, friends, let's go ahead and get right on into it. If you're new here, welcome. I have been an artist with Seint for 5 years now. 5 years this month. I am celebrating my 5-year anniversary, especially over on Instagram and in my Facebook group. So if you're new here, go check it out. I'm actually giving away 2 different winners of over $500 in Seint makeup for free. Those are my giveaways for this month to celebrate my 5 years. So go check it out over on Instagram. All you have to do is like or comment on posts for the month of June. If you're watching this in June, you can still enter. You got plenty of time. I get asked all the time in my DMs, especially if Seint makeup is good for mature skin. And I can honestly say I've never seen a makeup work better on mature skin ever. So if you don't know, Seint 3D foundation, here you go, here's my actual foundation colors, is all cream-based makeup, okay? We actually have 2 different lines, 3D and Demi is very different. It is based on the color wheel and it is more on filtering. It is not technically a foundation, you apply it all over. So this I only recommend for key areas, and you can use them together, which I'll show you here in a bit. I'm gonna show you the option of doing one side fully 3D and then one side using Demi Colour. I have clients that swear by both methods or like to do both depending on the daily. So one of my favorite things about Seint that the coverage is completely customizable for whatever your mood is that day. If you are wanting a very natural, no makeup look, you can literally filter under your eyes if that's your problem area and leave the rest of your skin bare. Or you can do a really light coverage of foundation with Demi under the eyes. You can just use 3D foundation, really light, medium, full coverage, or with Demi. I mean, the possibilities are pretty endless. So that's why I'm here as an artist. It can be very overwhelming to learn this makeup because it is so different than any other makeup you've ever seen on the market. Like literally nothing close. So one thing I ask is if you try Seint, forget everything you think you know about makeup. You apply these completely differently. There's some key things you have to know, in my opinion, in order to get the best results from your very first application. So that's what today's video is about. A little bit about the basics, but what you need to know if you are getting started. So first things first, because I get this all the time. People are like, Sarah, you don't have mature skin. And I will tell you right here, these skin experts say mature is 35. I don't believe that. I think that there are people that are far older than me that have less mature skin than I do. I had mature skin before the age of 35. I believe, because I am a total skincare junkie and it has taken me years to kind of reverse the hands of time. The term mature skin is more dependent on how you cared for your skin when you're younger. So when I talk mature skin, I'm talking about you have fine lines or texture, and as we age, we tend to get more contrast in our skin due to sun exposure. So if you were like me and you did not wear your sunscreen growing up, or you ever used a tanning bed, I learned the hard way after I had skin cancer. I am like, slather me in SPF, okay? So all of this damage is beyond repair at this point, but I can tell you that with mature skin, there are some special things that me as the artist help you get the absolute best application and colors for your skin, because truly matching mature skin is a little bit different than, say, somebody in their 20s with absolutely no hyperpigmentation on their face. If only I was like that, right? I've color matched over 10,000 women at this point, mostly mature. That's kind of my wheelhouse. So I can help you, and I've troubleshooted with all of them. I've learned so much about these creams over 5 years. I consider myself a color expert. So I know I can help you out. Just know these creams are a little bit different, okay? You're not gonna apply them like traditional foundation. So what it is consisting of is we have highlight shades. So highlights are what you would think of in typical foundation world as like a color corrector, a foundation, and a concealer. I don't call them that because we don't use them in the same way, in the same order, any of those things. But more or less, what we do is we color correct if needed. We use a shade if needed to kind of tone down that color corrector and to kind of even out your canvas. And then we can use a lighter shade on key areas of the face to brighten, right? But the difference between traditional foundation and our creams is that you can't apply a lighter shade first, because our creams are a little weird. If you apply a lighter shade, so say this shade is obviously way lighter than like the darkest points of my face, right? It won't last. It will actually just kind of wear off and fade within an hour or two. And that is like a key sign you have a shade too light. It also is gonna really make the skin look textured that you're applying it to. So if you're applying a highlight shade to an area and you see texture that wasn't already there, or it's making your texture more apparent than it was with bare skin, the shade is wrong. So that is like the two key things. And sometimes the shade looks good, but then you're wearing it through the day and you're like, it's not lasting. It's just fading away. It looks like I have no makeup on a few hours later. That also means the shade is too light. And a lot of times what I notice is that it's not that you're darker all over. It's just in certain areas you might be darker. And that, again, it has a lot to do with mature skin. As we age, obviously we've had a lot more sun exposure, right? And certain areas of our face get more sun exposure than others. The part that stick out, like right through here, is a big one, which is where I have all of my hyperpigmentation. That's super common. So whereas this area of my face, I can't get the same amount of coverage as if I was to put a color that's, oh my God, it's hard. I'm a hard example because I have freckles everywhere. But on a lighter part of my face with less hyperpigmentation, if I was to use a color that matched that here across my face where I'm darker, it's not gonna last. And it's not gonna give me nearly enough coverage. So I'll show you when I get to applying these shades, how we kind of mitigate that with mature skin. And I'd say probably 90% of my clientele that have mature skin do use a color corrector in some way. And most of them that don't is just because their main shade, their entire face, is about the shade of the color corrector. So they can just get away with one shade and it will color correct at the same time. So if I don't give you a color corrector, you're just lucky in the fact that your whole face is already that color. Okay, so those are our highlight shades. The second shade that 3D foundation consists of is contours. So the main point of 3D foundation is to actually give your face a 3D appearance. So naturally, our faces have shadows and natural contours. And I'm sure everyone knows by now what contouring is. It's gotten really popular, and for good reason, because it can completely change the shape of your face. And even if you don't want to change the shape of your face, looking a little bit more sculpted and lifting our cheekbones is never a bad thing, especially as we mature, because our skin naturally loses elasticity and certain areas of our face kind of start dragging down, right? We start getting these lovely pre-jowl areas. Lifting the cheekbones will only make us look more youthful. So contour is a good thing. So contour is a little different in 3D world in the fact that this also will give coverage, much like our highlights. So there's a couple different ways you can apply, and you can apply these directly to the skin and you don't have to layer. That is one method. Or you can still apply your highlights. And for me, for example, I have hyperpigmentation and redness through here. So you'll see I need my color corrector in order to get this to blend better, to last longer, to give me more coverage on those areas, and so that my redness isn't pulling these too orange or warm. So I see that a lot with mature clients. We have a lot of spots. We get dark spots as we age, right? Age spots, they call them, whatever you want to call it. Hyperpigmentation is one of those things we kind of have to combat as we get older. And if you don't know, hyperpigmentation is extremely hard to get rid of in the first place. So the best thing to do is just color correct it. And it can be really easy. The contour, I'd say, is the hardest area because you do have to use your color corrector first in order for this to give adequate coverage. And I'll show you that when we get to the contour step. So highlight, contour, and then my most favorite part, and that's lip and cheeks. Can you tell? That's my favorite. So obviously I have a lot in my personal compact because I love our lip and cheeks. So they are dual purpose. We have different formulations, anything from matte. Do I have, no, I don't have, well, yeah, I do on the back. Yeah. We also have a semi-gloss, which is kind of in between. What we call a satin is matte. Semi-gloss is kind of in between a matte and a glossy. And then the glossy is the most shiny, of course, which I have a lot of glossies in here because those are my fave. These will work as blush and as lips. My favorite part is that you can mix and match and combine colors and literally wear a different color every day of the week. And I'll be honest, before I started wearing 3D foundation, I think I wore the same blush color for years and I never changed. And I didn't realize also how old those powders were making me. And then last but not least, we do have what we call an illuminator. So in 3D world, illuminator is what you kind of pop on the top of the cheekbones, anywhere you want that kind of light to reflect. It's what they call in traditional makeup world the highlighter. But since our highlights, where are they? Actually kind of brighten the skin. That's why they were named highlight for hack, which is highlight and contour. So that's kind of where we got the names. That's where we got started. And that's a little bit about 3D foundation. Now, the amazing thing about 3D foundation is that the fact they're all cream. We do have a setting powder. We do have powder illuminators even. I'll get to that when we get to the application step. But the beauty of creams is that they instantly will make your skin look more youthful. And that's because it's naturally gonna give you a dewy, glowing look to your skin, which as we age, our skin gets drier. It loses that lackluster. And that's one of the things that I noticed. One of the reasons why I switched was because I was wearing a powder foundation. I was not even, I think I was 34 when I started wearing these creams. And I looked 10 years older. No joke. I can drop in a picture and show you guys. I looked so much older. I also was not taking care of my skin. And now I've learned the beauty of a skincare regimen. But alas, powders are not very forgiving on mature skin. They tend to make every fine line stand out. They make your skin look drier and more flaky, and they don't give you that youthful glow that we had as we were younger. So we kind of have to work a little bit harder to get that glow. And so I will show you all my tips and tricks when you're applying. But the beauty is these creams will actually hydrate your skin over time. So what they are is occlusive. So I am a former chemist, so these are up my wheelhouse. Occlusive agents means they're gonna sit on top of your skin, so they don't get absorbed. If you hear somebody say that, that is not true. These creams actually sit on top of your skin, and what they do is they prevent your skin from transepidermal water loss, TEWL. If you hear that term, That just means the water your skin naturally loses throughout the day. So all of that hydration you're losing, our creams actually lock it in. So it's much like if you're a skincare junkie, using something occlusive as your last step to lock in all the moisturizers and oils and things that you put on your skin, say for your nighttime regimen. The beauty is that these creams will do that all day for you. So if you have dry skin, this makeup is amazing. If you have normal skin, your skin is gonna love it again because it's gonna stay normal. And you can also wear this makeup for sure if you have oily skin, and it will actually improve your skin over time. There are a few little tips and tricks you might need to try if you have super oily skin as your skin goes through the adjustment phase, I call it, which is kind of that first few weeks you're using a cream and your skin's not used to all that extra moisture. You might feel a little bit glowy than you'd like. And I've got lots of tips and tricks. As my client, I actually send you an entire email after you order of my tips and tricks. And literally there's a lot of information in it because I am very type A and that's just the way I work. But there's lots of tips and tricks for even those oily girls of things you can try before your makeup even arrives. You will be ready to go. Okay, I have talked long enough. That is 3D foundation. I'm gonna show you a little bit about how to apply, and I'm gonna show you just on one side of the face, fully 3D. Then on the other side, I'm gonna show you using Demi just where needed. And I feel like with mature skin, our number one problem area, you guys could probably guess what it is. I know it's my number one problem area, and I feel like most people like color match, it is also theirs, and that is the under eye, okay? Because our under eyes is where we have the most texture, the most prone to creasing or giving us coverage issues. So Demi Colour is a different line within Seint. It is very different than 3D foundation. I have specific videos explaining it in much more detail, but I'm gonna show you how we can use this just under the eyes. Now, I feel like I have a mixture of clients. Some prefer just 3D. It is very easy to use. Once you learn how to use it and how to apply, you can do your full face in 5 minutes. Simple, quick, really fast and easy. But if you're wanting like the absolute best look under your eyes, and that's maybe a place that you don't care if it takes you a little bit longer, you prefer to see no texture, this line is incredible because it's the only makeup I've ever seen on the market that can actually give you coverage. We call it filtering, not really coverage, without the look of any texture. So it will not increase the look of texture. I'll be honest, any other makeup on the face of the earth, you're gonna still see the texture of the makeup under your eyes. It's kind of just the natural thing about makeup. Yes, there are tips and tricks to give you the smoothest finish and all of that, and I'll show you how I do my under eyes with 3D. I do have specific videos just on under eyes, just with 3D. I go into a lot of detail so that you guys can find the best method that works for you, because everybody's under eyes are very different. We all have very different skin there. We all have different concerns, levels of darkness, levels of texture. And that's something you have to kind of do a little trial and error for your face and see what works best for you. You might prefer just a really quick coverage and setting it and be done, okay? I'll be honest, if I am like wanting to get out the door in 5 minutes, I just go with 3D. If I want the absolute best look and I'm gonna have pictures taken, something like that, I will use them together, okay? So I will show you both. Okay, so let's get started with application. For a color match, all you have to do is click the link in the drop box below the video. I ask a lot of questions, but that's for good reason. I wanna know exactly how you like to wear your makeup. I wanna know any concerns you might want extra coverage on. It highly depends on how you answer those questions, how I'm going to match you, because it's not how I like to apply my makeup, it's how you like to apply yours. And I give very detailed color matches. I wanna make sure it is customized just for you. So you fill that out. I send you a lot of information back. Don't be overwhelmed, but that is to help you within your first few times applying the makeup. It's got application techniques that I think you should try first. It's got videos linked to kind of help you out, all of that, okay? So I'm a big believer that I'd rather have more information than not enough, and you got me in your back pocket. I am your artist, so I can help you at every step along the way, help you troubleshoot. That is what I'm here for. Once you know your colors, you're waiting on your order. First of all, what I'd recommend for tools. I feel like I get this question so much. And for mature skin, I do feel like there are brushes that are your by far better options than any brush we have. All of our brushes are very different. They are designed for our creams, making it far easier than any other brush in the market, for sure. But some of our brushes pick up a lot of product. They are very easy to get heavy-handed, apply way too much. And one thing you got to know about our creams is that they are far more pigmented than traditional foundation. So like 30 times more. And I even get comments where people are like, those tins are so small. But these highlight tins, my colors will last me, oh gosh, probably 6 months each. The brightener even longer, because I apply so very little. Okay, so depends on your face, obviously, and what colors you have, and if you're wearing full coverage and all those things. But they last a very long time if you're not over applying. I'd say the number one issue when people start using our creams is that the first time right out of the bat, they always apply too much. It's normal. I did it. Everyone I know did it. That's okay. We learn. So if you are applying and you feel sticky or tacky, or you're having a lot of issues with creasing and all of that, you just applied too much, or you didn't use this bad boy enough. I don't recommend anyone with mature skin not getting the Perfector. This sponge is unlike any other. I've tried them all, and when prepared just right, this one is just very different because it's designed to remove excess. It's not designed to apply a liquid foundation like a lot in the other market, in the market, which are a lot more dense. They're not as soft. This one won't pull the product into it. Like, I've literally cut it in half before and there's no product inside, but it will pull off excess, which is why you see it kind of gets stained after a while. This, in my opinion, makes the makeup go from great to magical, because I can have mature skin, get great coverage, get the glow I want, and have it still look like skin because of this. And if it's on too heavy, you can really get prone to looking cakey, even with creams, okay? But it is all in color choice and application technique and this bad boy, okay? So the Perfector Sponge is a must-have, and these are my two favorite brushes to make sure you're not getting too much upon application. You're gonna be able to color correct, do detail work, contour, bronze, all the things that I feel like most people need, but most definitely for mature skin. There's something about this brush that actually will give a very airbrushed look across texture, fine lines, wrinkles, and kind of help blur that area. It's very soft, and this end of this brush is a game changer in my opinion. So this is actually the blush bronzer brush. Just after years of experimenting, we've discovered this is the best brush for mature skin. And then the detail brush, which is my ride or die. I will never detail with another brush again. Sorry, contour and then detail work. And then of course that Perfector to pull off excess as you're finishing touch. I'm gonna go ahead and apply my 3D foundation more or less on my whole face, except I'm gonna skip this under eye so I can show you guys Demi there. Key is, if you're gonna ever use these two together, we never layer. Okay, so I told you the magic of Demi is that it gives no texture, but if you're trying to put it over 3D, you're gonna see texture of makeup again. So don't layer this. It's not a color corrector. It's very different. Okay, so first things first is when it comes to 3D foundation, you will always apply the darkest shade first, okay? So like I told you before, if you put a shade on too light, it will give texture, it will wear off, it won't give good coverage, okay? So the darkest points of your face is literally what I'm gonna look at first. I'm gonna look at where you said you had issues that you wanted extra coverage on, and I'm gonna look at the depth of your face to make sure we match those first. So one of the things about mature skin is that since as we age, we do get more texture to our skin, wearing a shade too light will instantly make you look older. And a lot of times, since we have a lot more pigment in our skin as we age, wearing a shade too light will make you feel washed out. So you might call it sun damage, but it truly makes your skin darker than you think it does. I can't tell you how many women I've color matched who say they're fair, and I look and I'm like, they're nowhere near fair in my opinion. At least within our line, they're nowhere close to fair. And that's probably because they've been used to always applying a shade really light. They might have been super fair when they were young, and they just kept buying those super light shades. And with traditional foundation, you can apply a very light shade over your skin, and it's not gonna wear any differently than you would a darker shade. Does that make sense? But these creams do, all right? So that increase in melanin that we have in our skin, that usually you're a lot darker than you think you are, okay? I'm not saying everyone in general, but unless you've had a lot of treatments done to where you've been getting laser treatments every year and peels to where you have no, what I call contrast on your skin, like you don't have freckles and dark spots or redness, rosacea, scarring, any of those things that cause an area of your face to be darker than the skin around it, then you most likely could not use a color corrector at all. But in my experience, those people that do want extra coverage on those spots, okay? And so if you have areas of your face that you want extra coverage on, you just tell me, and I'll make sure I color match you to a color that will correct those accurately, okay? So for me, darkest parts of my face, you can probably tell, is my entire nose. I've got hyperpigmentation through here. I've got darkness around my eyes. I've got broken capillaries, which most mature skin has some, unless you've got them lasered off. I've got redness, pores, all of those things, okay? So when it comes to texture of the skin, like pores and fine lines and wrinkles, no makeup, I'll be honest guys, no makeup on the face of the earth will cover texture. Unless you wear a extremely thick matte foundation that almost works to like fill in and then mattify so you don't see the reflection in order to see texture of the skin. That's all that texture is a reflection of light to where you can see the natural texture of skin. So matte full coverage foundations take away that glow. That's why they make you look older. That's why they can kind of cover it. They can kind of cover those to an extent. It's not coverage though. It is an optical illusion of a more flat appearance by taking away that highlight of the skin, okay? So you have to understand that it's kind of a balancing act, and it's up to you whether you want your skin to glow and have a more youthful appearance, or if you want to make sure you can't see any skin texture, okay? I think skin texture is beautiful. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Of course, there's certain areas of my face I try to mitigate it, but I'm not gonna just do fully matte all over because I look 10 years older, okay? So know that pores, fine lines, and wrinkles are not color issues. With our makeup, too light of a color will make them look way more apparent than they do without makeup on. That should never be the case, okay? If you're wearing 3D foundation and you can see your pores more, you're wearing way too light of a shade. And I see it every day. Women come to me and get rematched, and it's because they weren't giving any color corrector of any kind, and they have much darker points on their face, and that other color just cannot give them any coverage on those darker points, and it's making all of those darker points look like a lot of texture on their skin, which can easily be fixed with just one shade. Okay, so color correctors are not for texture, okay? They're only for color issues, okay? So unfortunately, I can't cover my wrinkles, but I can make them look less apparent by my color choices. And that means I'm not gonna put my lightest shade directly under the eye where I have the most texture, because why? I also have darkness that needs coverage. If I put a lighter shade there, it's gonna increase the look of texture there, and it's not gonna give me coverage on those darker points at all. I feel like with our line, the lighter you go, the less coverage it gives, because obviously, if there's a darker point, a lighter color can't cover that. You have to match the darkest points first. All right, so all that to say is I'm gonna hit all the darkest points in my face with my color corrector. So I'll just show you. This is my color corrector. It is darker than my darkest points for a reason, and that is to color correct and give me coverage, okay? If I was to use a color too light there, it's not gonna give me any coverage. Okay, so I'm just gonna dot it on the high points of my face, which is majority usually where people have more sun damage. Naturally, it's where we get the sun to hit first, okay? And kind of just let that warm up on my skin a bit while I go into my under eyes. Now, you can use a brush or you can use your finger. I'll be honest, I go back and forth, depends on the day. And your fingers can help because they can kind of help like melt the, not melt, but warm up the creams a little bit so that they kind of blend out a little bit easier. So if you're having trouble, they feel dry, or our creams have very different consistencies from one category to the next. The highlights are very different than the contours, that are very different than lip and cheeks and illuminators. They're all designed that way for very specific purposes, mostly so they stay put where you put them. Sometimes you have to kind of let them warm up a little bit so that you'll get an easier blend. Okay, so I'm gonna show you under eyes with this brush, okay? This is the small end of the detail. Now, one of the key things, like I said before, is people apply too much, okay? If you just simply tap, okay, that's probably still even too much. I'll see if I can do my entire under eye with this, okay? I'm gonna kind of tap to distribute, and then I'm gonna kind of buff that in that inner corner. Okay, so this side I'm gonna do fully 3D. Now, my advice with color correction is you always want to use the least amount of product possible, okay? To where you can't see how orange this looks on my skin. Here, when it's buffed in, you can't even tell I really put anything there. Yes, I have a little bit more coverage, but it doesn't look orange anymore, okay? So if you are like buffing it out and it still looks orange, you've put too much on, okay? So I tend to say if you're a beginner, just kind of barely tap in and tap on the face. Once you kind of learn the product a little bit more and you know how much to pick up, then you can just barely tap your brush and then go in and buff it, okay? So we use a buffing motion for color correctors because we want the thinnest possible layer, okay? So this is gonna be anywhere I mark your face in your color match. So you send me a selfie, I will mark on it and show you exactly where your color corrector goes. So that way you know where to place it. So you can tap it on those spots, then you can kind of buff it in. And as you get more comfortable with the application, you can just apply directly with a brush. Okay, so my main thing is that I always keep my color corrector as thin as possible. okay? We don't want it pulling you way too dark, way too warm, anything like that. And since your color corrector is usually a certain undertone in order to color correct what you're doing or what you have on your face, a lot of times it can be a little scary of a color compared to your natural skin tone. So my skin tends to be very reactive, so if I touch it, it starts turning red. So I usually have to let it die down a second. I'll be able to show you what it looks like more. So I'm just going in and I'm kind of doing a very light buffing just to those areas because those are the darkest points of my face. Hitting that first so I know I'm going to get the best longevity from my creams. They're going to last all day because I matched that point. Okay, so usually I buff it in and then I tell you, go back and look, and then you want to press on anywhere you want more coverage. So I feel like I barely put anything under my eye. You can, like I said, just use your finger and also tap. Okay, then you can use your brush. Around the eyes, you have to be a little bit more careful because that skin, as we age, loses a lot more elasticity, and we tend to not want to move it as much. So I tend to kind of tap that to blend it out without buffing it too much. You see that? Okay, I've got pretty good coverage there. Now I'm going to hit the darkest points of my face again with a more detailed brush. So I'm going to go in with that. I just barely tapped in. Now I've got hyperpigmentation through here, and then my big dark spot is right here. So I'm just going to press on more where I will want more coverage. Now, as you play with the makeup more and more, you'll see and you'll kind of learn amounts, and you'll kind of be able to see just by looking if that's going to be enough coverage once you apply your next shade. At this point in the game, it's a little bit harder the first few times you apply. Okay, this makeup, to be honest, will take a little bit of trial and error. It is very different, but it's very worth it. Okay, so broken capillaries, I'm gonna buff on a little bit more. And since my nose has hyperpigmentation, redness, and just naturally is darker, I tend to usually put more all over to make sure I've got good coverage. Noses, as we age, a lot of times it can be broken capillaries or just sun damage that causes our noses to be either not just darker, but sometimes just very red. And so this color corrector can be a game changer because even if your nose is the only part on your face that you have to color correct, there's no way that you can just wear another shade all over and get coverage on your nose unless you correct it first. Noses tend to be a little bit different skin texture even, and can just wear off a little bit easier since we, blow our nose and it's allergy season and all that fun stuff. So color correcting will help you get better longevity too if that's been an issue for you. Okay, so I'm just kind of looking at my skin to see if I have missed any areas. So I have rosacea also through my cheek area. Rosacea, if you don't know, or if you've developed it over time, I never had it until I was almost 40. So it's something that also can be an issue that's kind of like happens over the years. And it's something that fluctuates. So having a color corrector in your pocket can allow you to apply it very lightly one day if your redness is good. And when you have a flare up, you will have to just adjust by applying a little bit more. And so sometimes I just have little points on my face that I've kind of been irritated in some way. There's not a whole lot that they know about what can make rosacea flare up. It tends to be from person to person, but I know for me, a lot of it has to do with my skincare, and if I just exfoliated, it tends to be more sensitive and irritated. And so some days I will have to use a lot more color correction on certain areas. So right here, if it tends to be that it looks like your redness is already peeking through, put a little bit more on. If you have dark spots, put a little bit more on, press on more product, and then you can always go back and add more coverage once we do the next step. So I have some blemishes. This color does blemishes as well. I've got some hyperpigmentation down here. Okay, and so I'm just kind of pressing it on at this point. Okay, now I also have, like I said before, hyperpigmentation within my contour line. So you'll see I did not apply my contour first. And if you've seen Seint and seen people kind of just do the finger paint method and draws on all their stripes, that is amazing if you don't have any darker points of your face. If you don't have any hyperpigmentation, redness, dark points, anything, you're very even skin tone, you're in your 20s and loving life, that's amazing. I can't personally use that method. I get very little coverage. It looks okay for a little bit and then it just doesn't wear well. And again, that's because I have darker points that wasn't matching first. So that is not the best method for mature skin, in my opinion, whatsoever. I have very few clients with mature skin that would be able to use that method, in my opinion, to get the best results from this makeup. Again, that's just my opinion, but if you've tried that and it's not working for you, it's probably just a color issue and an application method, and we can easily tweak that. Okay, last but not least, I always do my eyelids, and I'm not gonna really go over eyes in this video because I feel like it could be an entire video on its own with mature eyes, because that is, again, something I am an expert at, because that is my biggest area that is very mature. So I went ahead and did this side because I do not use Demi above my eyes. But I will show you how to do that action with Demi in a bit. Okay, so at this point, we've color corrected. You can probably tell my face is a little bit darker than my neck. That is pretty normal when it comes to color correction. It shouldn't be super drastic unless you naturally have a lighter neck, which you can't really see my chest with this shirt on, but a lot of times mature skin can have a much darker, warmer neck, and that's again, or not neck, chest, and a much lighter neck. And that's because our necks are naturally shadowed by our faces, our chins, and our chest gets a lot of that sun rays, right? A lot of skin damage, which can just naturally over time, like I definitely am one of those people, if you could see it. But the neck is something we always kind of want to be tied in together, kind of matching. We don't want to be too far off, or we'll have what I call floating head syndrome. Nobody wants to look like they don't match their body, right? So in order to kind of stay matching, even out my skin tone, build up coverage and tone down the warmth of my corrector, we're gonna go in with that second shade, okay? Now this is my main shade. It's much more neutral and it's gonna bring me back to matching, okay? So I'm gonna go in with this brush. So we already buffed on the large areas with this blush end. Now we're gonna use this end to press on our main shade. And we're no longer buffing because that'll just move all of that strategic placement we just spent time to put, right? And if you are one that has a lot of individual dark spots and you just covered all of them, you can't go in and just buff this color on, or it'll move all of that product you just placed, and you're gonna come back to me and say, I have no coverage, okay? Application method is huge with this makeup. Okay, so this time I'm just gonna tap, again, because I'm not gonna place on the face, then I would have to buff that out to blend it. So this time I'm just touching the 10s. We don't swipe with this makeup. I never swipe, there is no need to swipe. Swiping only lends to far too much product on your brush and far too much product on your face that this bad boy cannot possibly remove all of, okay? So I'm just gonna kind of start distributing this across my entire face by just kind of bouncing it over the skin. We're gonna press it, and this is a pretty good sized brush. This brush is my favorite for this because it's really soft. It blends at the same time really easily, no pressure, not a lot of pressure. I'm just kind of moving it across the skin lightly, enough to distribute the product, but not so much that you feel the bristles like moving on the skin, or that means you're buffing. Does that make sense? So tap, okay. And you can do each, depends on how much coverage you want. If you want, I'd say medium to natural coverage, just tap a couple times in. If you're running more full coverage, you could probably tap a couple times for each area of your face. So that way you know you're kind of building up a little bit more coverage. Same technique for full coverage for beginners, in my opinion. Once you've used the makeup for a while, you can switch to a more full coverage brush, but this brush can do anything from natural to full coverage, which is why it's the best for beginners. Okay, so just going up to like that orbital bone on this side. This side, I'm gonna go up a little bit higher. Okay, I find the best coverage though is to go back in with a more detailed brush and then just barely tap into that main shade. And then again, tap on a little bit more product just to kind of even out that skin tone. And then again, you can go back in. You can always press on just where you need more. You don't necessarily even have to press it on all over. If you have, you know, a certain area of your face that's naturally lighter, or you don't need as much coverage there, you can apply this makeup just to the points you do. It's completely customized for you, okay? Okay, so sometimes I just go in with a little bit more in those hard to reach areas. Okay, you can tell how glowy my skin still is. It is a little heavy for my liking, but that's okay. We're not to the step to remove excess quite yet. So next is my favorite step. Well, one of my favorite steps is the contouring step. So this is where we're gonna add that natural dimension and shadow to our face. So right now, we are pretty much a flat canvas, okay? Our faces are not naturally one color. We're gonna add that shadow back in, but in this technique, because I did put coverage, well, I did not put it at the very top of my forehead because that's not an area I need extra coverage on. So you can either skip your contour areas if you don't need extra coverage, or you can technically contour first. A lot of people do that. I like a little bit extra coverage since I do have hyperpigmentation in these areas. And now I'm gonna contour, get a little bit more coverage here because this adds coverage as well, and then kind of sculpt out the face, right? Okay, so contour brush. This is called the Detail. This brush makes it so easy. The one thing you kind of got to know about our contours is that they're naturally very dry, okay? And they are designed that way so they really stay put. Like I've gone swimming and I still have a contour. It's awesome. But I feel like it's all in how you get the product on the brush. Again, I don't swipe. That kind of leads to like big clumps being on your brush and then makes it harder to blend. If you have hyperpigmentation or areas in or anything within this area like scarring or pitting or anything like that, that you just added extra coverage on, and you go in and you start applying your contour and blending out like this, you're gonna move all that coverage. It's actually gonna most likely make that area look more apparent because this contour is almost gonna kind of like stick in spots, okay? So the key to not getting that issue and to still getting the lift that we want for a more mature face using contour is to kind of put it on the brush in a very strategic way. So what I do is I hold my brush at an angle and then I just tap, okay? And I tapped with some pressure because these are a little bit drier, and I got the product very evenly distributed, you can tell. Very even, one side of the brush, okay? Now, for the mature face, we always want to put it under the cheekbone, but we never want to go too low. So if you're in doubt, apply it a touch higher than you think. A little high is always better than a little low, because you'd be surprised that so roll something straight, you'll find your natural cheekbone. It's always from about the top of the ear to the corner of the mouth, okay? That is literally the hollow. So that means I need to apply the color right along that imaginary line. Now, if I apply it a little too low, look how much that's cutting off my face. It's gonna drag my face down. But if I apply it a little bit higher, it's just going to kind of give you the illusion that your cheekbones are a touch higher. You're naturally gonna blend it down a little bit just from blending. So when I go to apply, I'm always going to that top part of the ear, like I'm cupping that area. Can you see that? Okay. And then I'm just gonna simply act like I'm cupping that cheekbone just about to that corner of the eye, okay? That's about as far as I wanna go. That will give you the ultimate lift. If you go in here, it can give you a fuller cheek area. If you cup this area, that is highly dependent upon this shape of your face. So for now, this is the most universal for every face shape, no matter the size of your cheeks, okay? So we just kind of tap. We're just pressing it on to place it, okay? I'm not drawing on a big stripe that I'm gonna have to then work really hard to blend out. If that was the case, I'd again lose that coverage I just put, okay? So I'm gonna just tap it, and then I'm just gonna keep tapping along that line. Again, I don't want to blend like this. For one, our contours actually blend out really easily. So 9 times out of 10, when I have somebody say that their contour isn't showing up, it's because they're blending like this. Because I will color match you in a way to make sure you have a contour dark enough that you will be able to see it. That should never be the issue. The issue is how you're blending. So tap, okay? Then I want you to start kind of pulling the brush upward, because we never blend down the face, we always blend up. Okay, and this will kind of blend that top part of the contour line so that it kind of ombres, okay? And then once we add our lip and cheek, it's gonna kind of make that contour look more natural, less like a stripe on the side of our face, right? But can you see that lift? And contour is one of those things. I know I never contoured before this makeup. When I first started contouring, you couldn't even see I was wearing contour. You get more comfortable the more you do it, the more times you apply. And then you'll maybe like a more stronger contour. So I'm at the point where I like a strong contour. So you do not have to wear it as heavy as I do, but you'll probably get there eventually. Can you see the difference? Okay. Ultimate lift. That's what we want, right? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side, same way. I'll do it faster so you can see. And it's a really easy motion because all I'm doing is pressing. I'm not doing anything fancy. Place it, I start tapping upwards. It naturally blends really easily, and I'm not moving any product underneath. So I'm getting more coverage, no weird dark spots shining through. Now, along my forehead, I didn't color correct. So technically I could totally take my finger, draw a stripe, good to go. I find using brushes are far more easier for me. I can apply, blend at the same time. It actually takes me far less time to just use a brush than to use my fingers and a brush to blend it out. This I don't find the best for blending harsh lines. It's way easier to blend with a brush. This is best for just removing excess, okay? So same thing, I'm gonna kind of tap in. Not as concerned with getting it on my full brush this time. Okay, now forehead contour is mainly just framing out the face, okay? You can apply as much or as little as you want. You can go down as far on the forehead as you want. You can go down as far on the temples as you want. The farther down you go on your forehead, the shorter your forehead can look. The farther down here, the more narrow your face will look, okay? The key is you always want to blend into your hairline. And you always want to blend down into the highlight, okay? So defined contour on the cheek is okay. Defined forehead contour, not okay. We never want to look like we have a straight line across our forehead. And I have a pretty large forehead, so I can use a lot of contour there. But I always want it to kind of ombre from light to dark, and I'll show you how we highlight the center here in a minute. But that gives us depth, dimension, frames out our face. It gives us a little bit of color. There you go. Right, easy peasy. Jawline. Okay, jawline can be a little different depending on the person, because again, we can disguise jowls to an extent. We can disguise this to an extent depending on placement of contour. So for the general person, my rule of thumb is this. You want to start back where the shadow is the deepest. This is also why we start up here on the cheek contour, never here, because we want it to ombre from dark to light. Naturally, our shadow is darkest back here, and then we don't want a big glob right here on the side of our face. Same thing goes with under the jaw. You naturally are going to have the darkest shadow back here. So you start back there and you go under that jaw, okay? Up under here, not on the side of the face, okay? So we go under, and then we always blend down, okay? Blend down. Now, double chins, this, all of that, applying more contour to those areas will make them look less apparent, because dark recedes, light pushes forward. So anywhere you want to bring attention, like when we get to the brightener step, we're going to use that light and dark theory to make our eyes stand out. So when it comes to this, you can go slightly on the jawline, just where you're either have jowls, starting to get jowls, whatever the case may be, and really darken that area, darken this area. It will make that recede, okay? The key is blending. You never want to look like you have a stripe on the side of your face right there. That can be a lot more apparent than this, right? So you almost kind of want to use that shadow to disguise it, and then softly blend it out. Same thing goes with if you have a double chin, keep that area nice and dark. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm gonna do a really quick nose contour, just using the edge of the brush. Nose contours are same thing. We're just tricking the eye with light and dark. And I'm gonna do a really subtle one because I'm not brightening this under eye, because we're gonna use Demi there. And half of the magic of a nose contour is actually the brightener. I wanna show you on this side the difference between the two. But I can't really do it here. So we're gonna do it real subtle. So blend that out, just like a little shadow. And you can use a little bit under your lip. to make your lip fuller, since again, another area of our face that we tend to lose volume can be there. Okay, so far we've used our color corrector, main shade, contour, and now we're on to our brightener stage. I gotta remember not to do this side of the face. I am gonna use the same small end of the detail brush. Now, I have used every brush we have to do this brightener step, but for mature skin, you always, since under eyes are an issue for most, I'm not gonna say all, most people, you gotta think the least amount of product and you gotta think strategic placement. There's no need to go in with this huge under eye triangle. If we have texture under our eyes, the lighter we go with our highlight shades, the more it will increase the look of texture. So this is why we lightly layer shades, so that we are able to use this pop shade, which is a lot of shades lighter than my skin tone, actually. This one's 3 shades lighter, so that I can kind of get that brightening effect without it increasing texture and, you know, making my fine lines look more apparent. Like it would if I was directly putting it directly to the skin right under my eye, okay? But I urge you to really look at your own eye, your own skin. Your placement might be very different than mine, okay? So for me, I have the most texture right under the middle of my eyelid, like right there, okay? I also have texture here. So one of the techniques you see all over social media right now is brightening right here and right here, okay? That is literally right in my crow's feet. I don't want to bring attention to that area. That's not a good, it might lift, but there's eyeshadow techniques I can use to lift the eye. I don't need to use a brightener that is too light for my skin that's going to make it look more apparent. So it's all about placement for your eyes. So you always want to use very little, again, tap, okay? I do like to go to this inside corner, but I tend to go more on my nose than right under the eye, right here. Okay, so I'm just gonna tap here and I'm gonna go, first I'm just gonna go kind of right down that nose contour stripe. Do you see that? I'm just gonna go straight down. Now again, this can be an area that we just color corrected. I had broken capillaries. I'm not gonna really put a super light shade there. That area does not need to be light and bright, right? Who cares? We are going to skip that area and we're just gonna keep going down to this area right here. Okay, so we are gonna give the appearance of a brightened under eye without going all the way up to the lash line, okay? So I'm just gonna kind of gently go right through here. Now you can see I naturally have a shadow through there. I'm gonna use that light and dark theory to kind of brighten that shadow as I go through this region where I had hyperpigmentation. And the main reason I want to brighten right here is because I am also layering another color and I'm increasing the coverage I'm getting on those dark spots at the same time. And a lot of people, their under eyes aren't even darkness from, you know, veins or genetic dark circles or anything like that. It is hyperpigmentation. That's a lot of my darkness around my eyes are hyperpigmentation. I told you guys earlier, this is an area that it likes to collect. So I'm just gently kind of tapping. I'm gonna put a little bit right there just because I have a shadow, okay? Just enough to mitigate that shadow, not enough to collect, okay? Because again, this is a lot of product right there. It's a lot of product under my eyes right now. I'll show you how I'm gonna make sure that it doesn't start creasing through the day. But that is how I use very little product to get the brightening effect, and then I'll show you that next step. So let's go to the center of the face, okay? Now, since I kind of did a nose contour, I'm gonna go right down. Nose contours are very optional. I don't do them every single day, but when you do, the key step is kind of brightening the sides of the nose. You can tell how it will thin the nose, and then going right down the center and then up in between the brows. So we're kind of keeping this area light, okay? Just really subtly, okay? Under the eyes, and then we do down the center. We do Cupid's bow, center of the chin. Now, if you naturally were one of those people that have a lighter neck, you can also go back and tap a little bit of your brightener shade right there to tie in your lighter tones of your neck, okay? Mine look like they're matching pretty well, so I'm not gonna use much, but that is a key area to brighten if that is an issue for you, if that is part of your face, right? I am going to cheat just a little bit and use a little bit of brightener on the side of my nose. Can you see how dark the sides of my nose are? I'm not gonna go into the under eye because I wanna show you guys Demi there. But alas, I've got to do the next step first. Okay, so that is how I brighten with 3D foundation, minus this under eye. Now is the magic step. Okay, so the important thing to note is that this Perfector is only magical when it's prepared properly. I always say the Perfector has to be prepared perfectly. If this was too wet, when I go to my under eye, all it's gonna do is pull off all of my coverage, okay? So if it's too damp, like say I just take my spray and spray it directly and then like put it directly under my eye, whoa, way too damp, okay? I know it will pull off my makeup in patches because I've tried it, right? Too dry, it will blend to an extent, but it will not remove excess in the way I need it to using this application method. And I don't ever recommend layering shades without the Perfector because I mean, this is a look, right? It's just not my preference. I never want my makeup to look heavy. I don't want to have to worry about creasing or feeling sticky or tacky. And when you apply too much product, naturally our creams will be tacky if there's way too much, right? So the magic is in the Perfector for me. I sprayed my Dawn dish soap power spray on it as I was getting it wet. So I kind of cleaned it, made sure it was bacteria free. I squeezed it out until it was no longer sudsy and made sure I was opening and closing my hand under running water for a good amount till it fully expanded. It is a lot bigger than it was before. This is an old one. So it will double in size, okay? Then I squeezed it out and shook out every last drop of water I physically could. Then I used a very absorbent flour sack towel and I squeezed it out a few more times. And then I've left it out, and granted now it's probably a little drier than I normally use it because I've been talking too much, but I let it out and kind of sit while I'm starting my face, okay? And let it dry down a little bit so that way the outside isn't too damp that it's going to, again, pull off my makeup. So now it is perfect. Yeah, mine's a little dry, but that's okay. And now I can pounce it all over the face. And that's simply all I do is I pounce it. I never sweep or swipe. I'm just kind of tapping it. And this is gonna give me that skin-like finish. It's gonna kind of blur any harsh lines if there are any. It's gonna prevent any areas of creasing. So if you have deep marionette lines like I do, these are areas that you could have product collect. Again, if you've applied too much in this area, our creams don't naturally set. Creams don't set unless you set them with something. So they can migrate on your face throughout the day. If there's too much, our faces move a whole lot during the day. This is why the under eyes are the biggest area of concern because our eyes are blinking and moving all day long, okay? So this is why I always make sure my number one place I'm perfecting is under the eye. And now as you saw, I was constantly kind of rotating this. I'm always rotating it until it is on like it feels cold to the skin. And as it kind of warms up, I know that area is done. It's done its job. And I just keep I already have creasing on my eyelids because mature eye problems, right? Okay, now can you see the difference? Now my under eyes don't look heavy. They don't look super makeup-y. My face is contoured, but still looks like skin. And I've got that glow, right? Whoop, I forgot I nose contoured. I gotta blend that out a little bit better. Okay, so this side I've perfected. I have no creasing. I made sure I got all that excess from under my eyes. Now I used 3 shades under my eyes. Can you tell? Doesn't look heavy, doesn't look cakey, because I used the right shades, the right amount, and I made sure I got off all excess. Now I can set that area so it doesn't crease, lasts all day, doesn't move, right? Because our eyes, like I said, move a lot. Now, the key with mature skin is finding a setting powder that will not make your under eyes look dry or crepey or cakey. And I've learned that with our makeup, the more you use a heavy powder or you have way too much excess creams under your eyes, it's those two things, that two combination of a powder plus too much cream, that will make you look cakey. More times than not, it's because you're using a shade too light. Since too light of a shade won't give coverage, you're trying to put you have to use a lot more of a light shade in order to build up coverage, and then it starts looking cakey, especially under the eye. Not all of our shades color correct in the same way, and some don't color correct darkness like our under eyes naturally have. So if you are having cakey under eye issues, I'd ask you what kind of powder you're using and if you're using a color corrector, because it can be a game changer. So for me, I am gonna grab our oh my gosh, that was our old name. My gosh, I've been doing this way too long. Now it's just the powder brush. Used to be the powder brush. The powder brush, because I love the control I get with this brush. And when it comes to the under eyes, I need control. I find that if I use too much powder, I will instantly look older. So for me, I have to be strategic with how much I apply. If I use the Perfector, which some people do, to set under their eyes, I can't control the amount and I always get too much. But I can use our Vanilla Dust, which is a more finely milled powder. I can touch it. That's it. Touch it. And go under the eye and tap it on this entire triangle. And look at that. Doesn't make me look dry, cakey. It actually, I feel like, kind of gives me a blurring effect, right? And I usually take that all the way down to the side of the nose because I like a little bit of matte right there. Now I can go and I can swipe and I can apply it heavier to my eyelids since those really crease. And that I need a nice powdery base for my eyeshadow anyway. But when it comes to under eyes, you want to use the smallest amount you possibly can, not a heavy powder, which might take a little trial and error because not all powders are equal, and just enough to set the area, but not so much to make it look dry, cakey, or older, right? We don't want to emphasize that texture. You can take a little bit down my marionette lines if I feel like I'm a little too glowy. I'm gonna go ahead and set this eye, and there you go. Now I'm ready for blush. I feel like this under eye is making me crazy, but alas, I gotta make sure I've got all my 3D on before I'm gonna go for that bad boy. Okay, so now for my legit favorite part, lip and cheeks. So my favorite for mature skin is to use, we want to make sure we still have that youthful flush to the cheeks, that glow, right? So my favorite technique is to make sure we have enough pigmentation, okay? So our lip and cheeks, like I said before, are a variety of different formulations. And some are very pigmented, some are very sheer. So I tend to gravitate towards a more matte shade for the pigment because those tend to be a little bit more pigmented. There are exceptions to the rule, but then I will put something glowy, which is a glossy shade over the top, because again, we're dealing with mature skin here, right? We want to add that glow, and you can tell we still have glow to the skin, but why not add a little extra? Okay. So today I'm gonna go with pink. I'm gonna use Hollywood. It's one of our most popular mattes. It actually does have a little bit of gold fleck in it. I will be honest, I don't feel like on the cheeks I can see it at all, but on the lips I can. It is a matte formulation, okay? So it's a peachy pink shade. I'm just gonna kind of tap, okay? You can always build up, but with mature skin, we always wanna kind of smile, okay? You can tell when we smile and point to the outside apple of our cheeks, if we go right to the center of the apple when we don't smile, it drags our face down if it's too low, right? The key with mature skin is going 1 to 2 widths away, okay? Then going to the outside apple so that when it drops, it doesn't go below our nose, okay? We want it kind of high and up along that contour line. Okay, like I said before, it kind of gives us that ombre, makes our contour look nice and natural. Okay, you can always kind of build up till it gets to the color you want. Okay, now I'm gonna use our shade of the month, because if you've been following me on Instagram, you know I said I'm wearing this shade every single day while I can, because it's only available to the last day of June. And it's one of my favorite shades of all time, and that's Sunshine State. Can you see the glow? No other shade we have gives the glow that this one does. Now it's a very sheer, it doesn't give very much color at all. It just gives that golden glow. Now, if you are scared of shimmer, don't be. With mature skin, yes, shimmer can, like I said before, kind of give that highlight, that light reflection to the skin, and can make certain areas look more textured. But I feel like if you're gonna do it anywhere, right here on the cheeks is the perfect place. We tend to be a little bit more smooth in that area. That's where we kind of catch the light the most, and that's where I feel like your skin can look very youthful. I get where some people just, want matte T-zone, but the cheeks add a little glow. I promise you're gonna love it. So Sunshine State, if this is after June and you're watching this, La Cienega would be my second choice. It's a more pigmented version like this, but it still has some gold glow in it as well. So I'm just gonna kind of tap. Look at that. Oh, is that not pretty? Like, nothing like it. I'm so sad it's not a permanent shade. So we do have one shade a month that's like just around for the month. It's limited edition, and then it won't come back till the next year. So just so you know, if you like that shade, you better grab it now. Okay, and since all of our creams are very multi-purpose, I'm gonna use, this is the multitasker brush. I'm gonna use the same contour shade to line my lips, and then I'm gonna apply those same 2 lip and cheek shades and do my lips real quick. Oh, love that combo. Okay, last but not least, the 4th shade in 3D foundation is the Illuminator. So, like I said before, we do have powders and we have creams. For mature skin, I'll be honest, I always recommend starting with the cream. They're more natural and actually less glowy than our powders, which might sound weird, but our powders are more of that wet looking highlight, that really like bling bling. I don't know how else to describe it. They're a lot less forgiving. And since they're also powders, can tend to emphasize the texture around our eyes a lot easier than our creams can. So I'm gonna go ahead and use Angel. It's this pale pink one. I do like to use the Perfector because I can swipe in generously, really load up my Perfector. It's one of the few things I will say you can swipe into and you can get a lot on your sponge, okay? That way I don't have to work about a blending. Like I don't have to use my fingers and worry about fingerprints. I can literally just go right to the top of the cheekbone. So it should go contour, lip and cheek, Illuminator. And I'm gonna avoid all of this area of texture and just apply it right there for even more glow, okay? And a lot of people like to skip this step, but for mature skin, I feel like the Illuminator can make such a difference. So other places you can put it is under the brow, which will kind of lift your brow, which again, kind of start lowering with age. Inside corner, right there on that tear duct. And I'm not gonna do eyes today, but I'm still gonna brighten that. And then right here on the Cupid's bow. Okay, anywhere you want a little bit of luminosity, catch the light, so good. Okay, so I filled in my brows real quick. They were driving me crazy. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want me to do a part 2. We could focus just on brows and eyes for mature. Yeah, I feel like that could be a whole nother video in and of itself. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and set this. For mature skin, I do recommend our Seint setting spray. I don't necessarily recommend it for all skin types. If you are oily, I do feel like there are better options, but for mature skin tends to be dry. This is really good for normal to dry skin, and it's gonna add more glow while setting your full face. So the main thing you have to know with using a setting spray and the finish you want is just order of application. If you want a more dewy look, you spray last. If you want a more matte look, you powder last. If you want a combination of both, you can play with it and see which one you like more, but usually I'd say spray after all of your creams, and then just powder where you want matte. And then you'll have matte in those areas and you'll be dewy everywhere else. Okay, so like I said before, you really don't want to layer Demi Colour over 3D. You will see the texture of 3D. You will actually see the texture of Demi. It's not going to sit the same way, and you're kind of defeating the purpose. This is not a color corrector. If you use this and try to put 3D over it, you're going to see texture. So it also defeats the purpose. Okay. The magic of Demi is that you can see little to no texture whatsoever if used properly. If you're choosing the right colors to the right point, they magically disappear. So I always recommend, if you're wanting to try Demi for the first time, just picking one area of the face, okay? Like blemishes, for example. There's no makeup on the planet that works for blemishes more than this. It's the only thing I've ever seen be able to get rid of a blemish and not show texture. It's incredible. So blemishes or under eyes, even dark spots, but dark spots can be a little bit harder and sometimes can be faster just to use 3D on. So if you're wanting to do the hybrid method, like which this side, you'll apply your 3D and you'll just skip the areas you're gonna use Demi on, like I did under my eyes. And now I'm gonna go ahead and I always use 2 brushes under my eyes, the spot and the bright, okay? And I'm just gonna use these tiny ends, okay? The thing with Demi is that you only touch color to color, meaning I'm going to go to the darkest point. Darkest points usually means excess blue, and I'm gonna hit that with orange because it's opposite the color wheel. So it's all in, we call it color solving. We're gonna filter it with the opposite color and it's gonna cancel out that color. It only works on excess color. So it can be very different in recognizing colors in your skin versus the color it looks like on a white sheet of paper. It's very different. So I have very in-depth tutorials I can link below on getting started with Demi. It has since changed the beginning of this year, and it's a lot of the colors are being discontinued. It's not going to be a full face kind of type product anymore, but it will work perfectly for this method where you just use it on those parts you want to filter, or for those no makeup days and you just want to filter out a blemish or a dark spot and your under eyes, and you're good to go. Okay, I'm going to try. The thing with Demi is it can be hard to see on camera. And it can be really hard to see what colors I'm using. So I'm going to try to kind of look down here in my mirror, and hopefully you guys can see what colors I'm picking. So all I'm doing is looking at the darkest points of my face. I'm going to go into, and when I say I'm barely touching the product, you almost will be able to see that you can barely see. I mean, you really can't see at all how much you're applying. Okay, if you're applying Demi Colour to the skin and you can see the color that you just dipped into directly on the skin where you touch it, you're using too much. Okay, it almost looks like you're wiping off the color and not actually applying anything. If you think I use very little 3D, which I did, I use even far less Demi. Each one of these tiny little 10s would last me well over a year. In fact, they are a year old, and granted, I don't use this daily, but you get the point. Okay, and I'm just gonna touch that area, almost like I'm wiping it off. When you dip in the wrong spot, I'm holding this upside down, so now I'm like, whoop, that's the wrong one. You just use the color switcher. Quick note on Demi, anything larger than a sesame seed is always more than one color. So this technically is very pinpoint application, only where I see that excess color, and I'm only touching that color. Switching to this brush. This brush will give even more of a lighter application. With Demi, a lot of times you have to move your head a lot and look at angles, and then you just pick a stopping point and you're like, that's good enough. So with Demi, since we have very precise application, you're not applying a lot of excess product. You don't have to set it. You don't have to worry about it creasing. If it is creasing on you, that means you're applying too much, because you should be using very light hand, very much a wash of color, but you can kind of see the difference of the brightness. With Demi, it's very hard to just kind of cancel out every color in a reasonable amount of time. You could if you wanted to spend that long in one particular spot, but I find that it's very easy to overdo it, especially if you're doing a large area. I mean, hitting every different color. You have a lot of colors naturally in your face. It can be too much, too time consuming. But it gives an amazing glowing look under the eye that just cannot be replicated using traditional liquids and creams and powders, because there's no powder and there's no creams quite like these Demi colors on the market. So there you go. I only used 03, 01, Y01, touch of Y1, and a touch of R01 for some hyperpigmentation. So there you go. Now, every eye is different. I might have to use different colors in the other eye. They're not twins. So Demi can be a little bit more of a learning curve. You have to be willing to learn kind of a little bit about color theory and the color wheel. But then once you get it, it gets super fast and you get really good at it. And I have a lot of clients that they're like never going back to anything else. It is their holy grail. Okay, friends, I hope that was helpful in kind of showing you an intro on 3D foundation, a little bit about Demi Colour, how you can kind of do a couple different techniques for mature skin. I feel like I probably could have talked another hour on mature skin alone, but that is what I'm here for as your artist, to help you troubleshoot if you come across anything that you need one-on-one help with. So if you're needing a color match, you're ready to try Seint, my color match request is in the Dropbox and the link below the video. Just fill that out. Tell me every way you like to wear your makeup. What colors are your favorites? I will give you all of my personalized recommendations just for you, and you can get started, and I will be your artist to help you every step of the way. If you have any questions, comment below. I'm here to help. And as always, thank you guys so much for being here and watching. I will see you next week. Love you.